Would you like to hear a story, Andrews Doers? This story is called Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. If we reach chapter 38, you will see. Chapter 1, Dudley Demented. The hottest day of the summer so far was drawing to a close and drowsy silence lay over the large square houses of Privet Drive. Cars cars that were usually gleaming stood dusty and their eyes, and laws that were once emerald green lay parched and yellowing for the use of hose pipes had been the drought. Deprived of their usual car washing and lawn mowing pursuits, an inhabitant of Privet Drive had retreated into the shade of their cool houses, windows thrown wide, in the hope of tempting in a non-existent breeze. The only person left outdoors was a teenage boy who was lying flat on his back in a flower bed outside number 4. He was a skinny, black-haired, bespectacled boy who had the pinched, slightly unhealthy look of someone who has grown a lot short in a short space of time. His jeans were torn and dirty, his t-shirt baggy and faded, and the soles of his trainers were peeling away from the uppers. Harry Potter's appearance did not endear him to the neighbors, who were the sort of people who thought scruffness ought to be punishable by law. But as he had hidden himself behind a large hydrangea bush this evening, he was quite invisible to passers-by. In fact, the only way he would be spotted was if his Uncle Vernon or Aunt Petunia stuck their heads out of the living room window and looked straight down in the flower bed below. Once on the whole, Harry thought he was to be congratulated on his idea of hiding here. He was not, perhaps, very comfortable lying on the hard earth. But on the other hand, nobody was glaring at him, grinding their teeth so loudly that he could not hear the news, or shooting nasty questions at him, as had happened every time he had tried sitting down in the living room to watch television with his aunt and uncle. Almost as though this thought had fluttered through the open window. Vernon Dursley, Harry's uncle, suddenly spoke. Glad to see the boys stop trying to butt in. Where is he, anyway? I don't know, said Aunt Petunia, unconcerned. Not in the house. Uncle Vernon grunted. Watching the news, he said scathingly. If you don't know what that word means, look it up. I'd like to know what he's really up to. As if a normal boy cares what's on the news. Dudley hasn't got a clue what's going on. Doubt he knows who the Prime Minister is. Anyway, it's not as if there'd be anything about his lot on the news. Vernon, shh, said Aunt Petunia. The window's open. Oh, yes. Sorry, dear. The Dursley felt silent. Harry listened to a jingle about fruit and bran breakfast cereal, while he watched Mrs. Figg, a batty, cat-loving old lady from nearby Wisteria Walk, amble slowly past. She was frowning and muttering to herself. Harry was very pleased. He was concealed behind the bush, as Mrs. Figg had recently taken to ask him round for tea whenever she met him on the street. She had rounded the corner and vanished from the view of before Uncle Vernon's out of the window again. Daughter's for tea. Daughter's out for tea. At the book, said Aunt Petunia fondly. He's got so many little new friends. He's so popular. Harry suppressed and a snoring with difficulty. Yeah. The Dursleys really were astonishingly stupid about their son Dudley. They had swallowed all of his dim-witted lie. He's about having tea with a different member of his gang every night of the summer holidays. Praise. Harry knew perfectly well that Dudley had not been to tea anyway. He and his gang spent every evening vandalizing the play park, smutting on street corners, and throwing stones at passing cars and children. Harry had seen them, added that during his evening walks around Little Winging, he had spent most of the holidays wandering the streets, scavenging newspaper from bins along the way. The opening notes of the music had heralded him the 7 o'clock news, reaching Harry's ears and stomach over. And perhaps tonight, after a month of waiting, would be the night. Record numbers of stranded holiday makers fill airports as the Spanish baggage handlers strike reaches its second week. Give them a live-long siesta. That's Spanish for nap. I would give them a live-long siesta. I would snarled Uncle Vermin over the end of the newsreader's sentence. But no matter. Give him a live-long siesta, I would. Outside the flower bed, her stomach seemed to unclench. If anything had happened, if would sure he had been in the first item on the news, death and destruction were more important than stranded holiday makers. He let out a long, slow breath and stared up at the brilliant blue sky. Every day this summer had been the same. The tension, the expectation, the temporary relief, and then mounting tension again. And always growing more insistent all the time. The question of why nothing had happened yet. He kept listening just in case there was some small clue, recognizing what had happened, for what it really was by the Muggles. An unexplained disappearance, perhaps, or some strange accident. But the baggage handlers, whose story was followed by the news on the in the southeast. I hope he's listening next door. I hope he's listening next door. Bellowed Uncle Vernon. Bellowed Uncle Vernon. He with his sprinklers on at 3 in the morning. Then a helicopter that had almost crashed on in a field in Surrey. Then an actress divorced from her famous husband, as if were interested in their sovereign. There's sniffed Aunt Petunia, who had been following the case obsessively in the Mary magazine. In every magazine she could lay her bony hands on. Harry closed his eyes against the now blazing evening sky, as the newsreader said. And finally, Bungie the Budgie has found a novel way of keeping cool this summer. Bungie, who had loser the 5 feathers in Barsley, has learned to water ski. Mary Dorkins, when he find out more. Harry opened his eyes. If they had reached their water skiing budget regards, there would be nothing else worth hearing. He rolled consciously onto his front and raised himself onto his knees and elbows, preparing to crawl out from under the window. He had moved about 2 inches when several things happened in very quick succession. A loud echoing crack broke from the sleepy silence like a gunshot. I got streaked out from under a parked car and flew out of sight. I shrieked about Odove and the sound of breaking china came from the Dursleys' living room, and as though this was the signal Harry had been waiting for the jump, for he jumped to his feet at the same time, pulling on the waistband. His jeans and a thin wooden wand, as if he was unsheathing a sword, but before he could dry himself up to full height, the top of then collided with the Dursleys' open window. The resultant crash made Petunia scream even louder. Harry felt as though his head has been split into two, eyes straining. His eyes streaming. He swayed, trying to focus on the street spot at the source of the noise, but he had barely staggered upright when two large purple hands reached through the open window and closed tightly around his throat. Put it away! Put it away! Uncle Vernon started to Harry's ears. Now! Before anyone sees! Get off me! Harry gasped. For a few seconds, they struggled, pulling at his uncle's sausage-like fingers to his left hand, his right maintaining a firm grip on his raised wand. Then, as the pain at the top of his head gave a particularly nasty throb, Uncle Vernon yelled to relax Harry as though he had received an electric shock. Some invisible force seemed to have surged through his nephew, making him impossible to hold. Panting, Harry felt himself forwards over the hydrangea bush, straightened up and stared around. There was no sign of what had caused the loud, cracking noise, but there were several faces peering through the noising windows. Harry stuffed his wand hastily back into his jeans and tried to look innocent. Lovely evening! Shouted Uncle Vernon, waving as Mrs. Number 7 opposite, who was playing from behind her neck curtains. Did you hear that car backfire just now? Gave Petunia and me quite a turn. He continued to grin in a horrible, maniac way until all the curious neighbors disappeared from their various windows. Then the grin became a grimace of rage as the back beckoned the hairy bat towards him. Harry moved as a few steps closer, as taking care to stop just the sharp of the point as which Uncle Vernon's outstretched hands could resume their strangling. What the devil do you mean, boy? Asked Uncle Vernon, in a croaky voice that trembled with fury. What do I do nearby? What? Said Harry coldly. He kept looking left and right at the street, still hoping to see the person who had made the cracking noise. Making a racket that a starting pencil right outside our oh boy. 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, is that scary? Okay. Yeah. No, not. Okay. So. Let's move on to the story, shall we? Whoa! I didn't make that noise. He's said Harry firmly. And Petunia's been horsey note. Ace has now appeared. Because Uncle Vernon's wife purple and she looks so livid. Why were you lurking on our window? Yes, good point, Petunia. What were you doing under our window? Oh boy. Listening to the news, said Harry in a resigned voice. His aunt and uncle. Looking outraged. Listening to the news again. Well, it changes every day, you see, said Harry. Don't you be clever with me, boy? I want to know what you're really up to. And you don't give me any more of this listening to the news, Tosh. You know perfectly well that you're a lot. Careful, Vernon, breathed Aunt Petunia. And Uncle Vernon lowered his voice so that Harry could barely hear him. That your lot doesn't don't go on our news. That's all you know, said Harry. The Dursleys goggled at him for a few seconds. Then Aunt Petunia, you're a nasty liar. And Aunt Petunia said, you're a nasty liar. What are all those? She, too, lowered her voice so that Harry had to repeat the next word. How's doing if they're not bringing you news? Said Uncle Vernon in a triumphant whisper. Get out of that one, boy. As if they didn't know to get all your news from those pestilential birds. Harry hesitated for a moment. It cost him something to tell the truth this time. Even though his aunt and uncle could not possibly know how bad he felt at admitting it. The owls aren't bringing me the news, he said tonelessly. I don't believe it, said Aunt Petunia at once. No more do I, said Uncle Warner forcefully. We know you're up to something funny, said Aunt Petunia. We're not stupid, you know, said Uncle Vernon. Well, that's news to me, said Harry, his temper rising. And before the Dursleys could call him back, he had wheeled about across the front lawn, stepped over the low garden wall, and was striding off the street. He was in trouble now, and he knew it. He would have to face his aunt and uncle later and pay the price for his rudeness. But he did not care very much just at the moment. He had much more pressing matter of his mind. Harry was sure the cracking noise had been made by someone apparating or disapparating. It was exactly the sound Dobby the house elf made when he vanished into thin air. Was it possible that Dobby was here in Privet Drive? Could Dobby be following him right at the very moment as this thought occurred? He wheeled around and stared back down Privet Drive, but it appeared to be completely deserted, and Harry was sure that Dobby did not know how to become invisible. He walked on, hardly aware of the road he was taking, for he had passed these streets so often lately that his feet and to his favorite haunts automatically. After every few steps, he glanced back over his shoulder. Someone magical had been near him as he lay among Aunt Petunia's dying begonias. He was sure of it. Why hadn't he spoken to him? Why hadn't he had made contact? Why were they hiding from now? And then, as his feeling of frustration peaked, a certainty leaked away. Perhaps it hadn't been a magical sound after all. Perhaps it was so desperate for the tiniest sign of contact from the world to which he belonged, that he was simply overreacting to be ordinary noises. Could he be sure if hadn't been the sound of something breaking inside of my neighbor's house? Harry felt a dull, sinking sensation in his stomach, and before he knew it, the feeling of hopelessness that had plagued him all summer